alaikum. Upcoming class alert. Upcoming class alert. Yeah, you heard right. We got an upcoming class alert taught by Ustada Laila Nasheeba. So stay close, because listen, it's going to be good. This series is the series on the Jinn. Please, you're going to want to listen and take some notes. Streaming on all major platforms. Once again, taught by Ustada Laila Nasheeba. Streaming on all major platforms. Channel Sunnah-followers.
With Sunnah-followers. Yes. Turn on YouTube, go to channel Sunnah-followers. You'll find me there. Put it on the big screen for the kids. Okay, and take screenshots. The parents take screenshots for the children. So the children, you can print out my PowerPoint with the hadiths. Because of course, I'm always going to give you evidence. I am not going to speak about this religion without giving you the clear proof of what I say. Okay, so tonight we're going to be discussing where do the Jinn live, and guess what I'm going to begin with? Here we go. Well, let me make me a little smaller for y'all too. Let me make this one big. I'm going to start it off with this. First of all, the Jinn, they live right here on earth like we do. They're not Martians. They don't live on the moon. Somebody asked me, do the Jinn live on the moon? No, they live right here on earth. But Allah commanded them to stay away from humans. Because as I told you guys, the desire to hurt us is too strong for them. So they can be found. They live in the ruins and abandoned areas. For example, a place where there's ruins, ancient ruins. That's why you're supposed to make supplication. You'll find them living there, or they live in abandoned houses. Oh yeah. You hear about people moving into a new house and they see ghosts. Those ghosts are jinns. Jinns will take on the appearance of ghosts to run you away because they were living in that abandoned house. They also live in the woods, in the forest. They also live in the mountains, in the desert. And they live where there's filth, such as an outhouse, not a bathroom. I want everybody to pay attention to this picture, because a lot of people don't know what an outhouse is. This is an outhouse. Inside it is a hole in the ground. And what do? You stand up over that hole and you can urinate and defecate. That's an outhouse. That's not a bathroom. That's an outhouse. They live inside there. Or a trench. A trench. Back in the Prophet's days, they didn't even have outhouses. They didn't have bathrooms, nor did they have outhouses. That's why you have to read the Arabic, the Fusha. And none of you can read and understand Fusha. So you're supposed to ask the people knowledge. And when they read that hadith to you, they'll come to that Arabic word and they try to give us, because there is no English word for that word. As Dr. Assam explained to me, as Sheikh Morsi, my teachers, explained to me, who are scholars of the Fusha. So it's what we would call a bathroom today. When we say bathroom, we say a place to answer the call of nature. In Arabic, the word means a place to answer the call of nature. But the bathrooms today are so beautiful, are so spacious and clean, that even bathroom is not a good word. So if I were to translate those hadiths into the English language, I would use outhouse or a trench. Because in the prophets' days, they didn't even have outhouses. They would go off, they would dig a trench, and the people would go to that trench and answer the call of nature in it. Okay? So the best word for you to understand is outhouse. They do have outhouses in Canada. For example, if you lived in Canada, Canada is so cold that even in the wintertime, the pipes freeze. So it's not uncommon for the people in Canada to also have an outhouse. They have bathrooms and they have outhouses. So when the pipes freeze up, they can use the outhouse. Well, that's where you would find a jinn. For those of you who live in Canada who have outhouses, the possibility of you having a jinn in your bathroom is slim, unless your bathroom is filthy. You don't clean it and you got feces on the floor. But outhouse is where you would find them. Also, you'd find them in hashish dens, also in cemeteries, graveyards, also any pasture that has camels. So the people who are close to Shaitan and the people who are close to the jinn, they live near those areas. They live in the woods. They live out in the mountains, mountain men. Or they'll live inside an outhouse. Or they sleep and live in the graveyard and all of that. But that's where the jinn live. They live here on earth, but they were told to stay away from us. Now, we have authentic hadiths. But like I said, you have to read the Fusha and know the Fusha, where the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has forbade us to pray in an outhouse. That's the word I would use. Because in Arabic it means the Prophet has forbade us to pray in an area of defecation and urination. There is no defecation and urination in any of my bathrooms. My bathrooms are so clean, you can eat, live, and sleep in them. All I need is a TV. Okay? And when we have toilets, we flush our toilets. What are you doing with a jinn in your toilet? If you got a toilet that flushes, the jinn live in feces. They live in defecation. So now you tell me, are you leaving urine and feces in your toilet? If you are, you could have a jinn in there. They eat dung, you know that. The jinn eat dung. But most of us, we have a bathroom with a toilet that's in a separate closet or a toilet that flushes. It's clean. Ain't no jinns in my bathroom. If you got jinns in your bathroom, then that's a sign that you a nasty person. You're a filthy person. That means you got urine and feces everywhere. You're filthy. All right? So the hadith that says to not pray is talking about don't pray in an outhouse. Now, if I lived in Canada, I can't pray inside that outhouse. Because what's on the floor? There's the hole with all the feces. And it stinks. Outhouses stink. The water doesn't flush. Did y'all know that? Our toilets have running water. It flushes. The feces is gone. An outhouse, the feces is right there. You can smell it. It don't flush. It's just right there with the urine. It's nasty. They got to put chemicals in it. Ugh. So I don't pray in no outhouse. I don't have an outhouse. Alhamdulillah. So don't get it twisted. And by the way, that's another short When I put that short out explaining that about the prayer, y'all should have seen the over 2,000 comments I got from a bunch of Muslims who call themselves students of knowledge. They called me kafir. They called me everything that Allah is going to pay them back for. And they're nothing but the denizens of Iblis, because they're ruwaybidah. All this knowledge they claim to have about Islam, and they don't know the basics. They don't know the difference. First of all, they can't read Fusha. Secondly, they don't know where we can pray and where we can't. That's a basic they should have learned when they were a child. My mother taught me when I was a child, you cannot pray in an outhouse, but the rest of the earth is a place of worship for you, Laila. And my mother told us as kids, keep the bathrooms clean. Don't ever leave urine or feces in the toilet, because that's what attracts the jinns. My mother raised us with that. My mother let me know, ain't no jinns in our bathroom unless you're going to leave urine, feces, and filth in there. Your mama should have taught you that too. It ain't my fault that the women today are too busy trying to be career women and kill people. They too busy out killing people, having a career, instead of being at home, learning their deen and teaching their children. This is what happens when we choose this dunya over Allah, over the hereafter. Our children pay the price, and they grow up ignorant. And they grow up cutting off the heads of the people who do know their religion, while you're putting people to sleep. Astaghfirullah, sad people. So that's why the prophet said that we don't pray in an outhouse, because of the impurities there, and because that's the place of the evil jinn. They eat that stuff. They eat dung. And that's also why we don't pray in a cemetery, because the jinn live there. When you hear people talk about how they go to the grave and they see ghosts, ghosts are real. Who are the ghosts? Don't y'all know ghosts are the jinn? The jinn can take on the appearance of a dead person, and they come and haunt you. That's the jinn. They come out in the graves, because what are you doing there? You know, we got people that sleep in the graves. We can't sleep in the grave. We got people that eat in the graves. We don't do that as Muslims. But for those ignorant people who do, of course they're going to see jinn. They're going to see all kind of ghosts. Okay? And also, how you guys are worried about a bathroom. Ain't no jinns in your bathroom unless you filthy. But what you need to worry about is the mall. How many of us like to hang out at the market? How many of us like to go to the mosque and try to pick up girls, pick up boys? Many of them hang out in places of evil, like the mall, the marketplace, places where music is, places where women walk around naked. You brothers that call yourselves students of knowledge, and you want to come and put your 2 cents on my shorts, while you sitting there praying on Times Square, you sitting there praying with the jinn. The jinn hang out on Times Square. Oh yeah, where there's drugs, where there's prostitution, where there's music, gambling, naked women. That's where the jinn are. Instead of being concerned about a bathroom, you need to concern yourself about taking your prayers to the mosque and not to the street. Listen to what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told one of his companions, bro. He said, if you can, do not be the first person to enter a marketplace, and do not be the last to leave it, because they are the places of Shaitan, and he raises his flag there. Hello. So instead of attacking Laila Nasheeba, who knows her deen, Attack yourself. Get out of the marketplace. Get out of the mall. Get out of the streets with your so-called dour boots, imitating a Jehovah Witness. We ain't no Jehovah Witness. We don't put up dour boots. We ain't Christians. And this hadith is authentic. What's the source? Sahih Muslim, bro. When you come at Laila Nasheeba, you got to come right. Because I'm going to make you look stupid. Okay? So the jinn hang out at the malls. They hang out at the marketplace. They hang out in Times Square in the streets. Those dour boots that y'all putting out on the streets to argue, that's where the jinn are. You're probably arguing with some jinn anyway. Okay? That's probably why you're getting smacked. The jinns are smacking you. Okay? We stay away from the places that can be sources of evil. Also, guys, again, they can live in houses. That abandoned house across the street. That brother and sister moved out of their house 2 months ago. When a human being moves out of his house, guess who can move in? The jinn. Downtown, I trip over the floor. Okay, when a person moves out of their house, the jinn move in. And that's why the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us that whenever you move into a new home, recite Surah Baqarah or recite Ayat Kursi. This is a sunnah. When I move into my new apartments, whenever I move into and I used to move a lot. Y'all know I move a lot. I always recite Ayat Kursi. So that way, if there's any jinns living there, it'll make them leave. Or even when you go vacationing, how many of you do that? I used to take my grandkids to the mountains several times a year. We'd rent a cabin and go to the mountains. Whenever we rent a cabin, when we walk in, open the door, the first thing I would do was recite Ayat Kursi. So if there's any jinns living in that cabin, they'll leave. Because number one, the cabin is empty. Number two, it's the mountains. The mountains is where the jinn live. And even when you do go camping in the mountains and stuff, recite Ayat Kursi. Because that way it'll make the jinn that's around leave, move away from you. And that way you don't end up hurting any of their children. And we're going to talk about that. The jinn have children. And if you end up stepping on one of their kids or something, they're going to come after you and haunt you. Okay? So the devils do live in houses like we do. We can stop them from entering and make them leave by mentioning Allah's name when we enter the house and by reciting the Quran, particularly Surah Baqarah and the verse of the throne, Ayat Kursi. And also, our Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he told us that the jinn come out and they walk the earth at night, at Maghrib. That's why we have that authentic hadith, Bukhari and Muslim, where the Prophet said, when Maghrib comes in, bring your children inside the house, close the door and lock the windows, because the Ifrit, who are the Ifrit? They are the worst of the jinn, the most troublesome jinn. They come out at Maghrib. And then when Isha comes in, you can open your doors back up. Open your windows back up and let the kids go out after Isha. So between the time of Maghrib and Isha, stay in the home. And then after Isha, you can go back out. Okay? And also, any jinn, when they hear the adhan being called, they run away because they can't stand listening to it. And during the month of Ramadan, not all the jinn are locked up, but the evil Ifrit are. but your personal jinn is still around, and the lesser jinns are too. So hold on for 1 second. I want to make sure that this ain't nobody had this one of them kid. Jayla, I'm doing a class. Oh my goodness, look. Salam alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Oh, look at her. She's growing up. This baby's so pretty. Look at all that hair she got. She looks like your mother and me. I see me. You look like me. Okay, well, let me call you. Hey, Jayla, I need you to fix my, you gonna put my chair together?
Yeah.
When you gonna come over and put my chair together? I bought a new chair, and I also ordered the tripod thing.
Probably this weekend I'm off.
Okay, well, I need you to put this chair together for me and my tripod. We'll talk about it. I'm on the website, but I'll call you back. Okay? Call. Did you let Grandma Sauter see her like that?
No.
Call Grandma Sauter. She'll love seeing all that hair. That baby's hair done grew. Oh my God. Her hair is curly like a Dubatese. MashaAllah. Okay. Okay. Assalamu alaikum. I'm sorry, guys. Grandkids. I had to make sure my granddaughter all right. I've been trying to get her to come here and put this chair together forever. And also, I got ordered a tripod. She got to put that together too. Yeah, I'm trying to get the streaming together for these other websites y'all got me on. Y'all can see me still, right, Brother Edward? I'm using my camera. Yeah, I see. Oh, don't turn your camera on, Edward. It'll distract me. If I see you on camera, it's going to distract me. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Tell your wife not because of that, but because look at a person looking at me is weird. I'm not, yeah. But y'all can see me in that room, right? Everybody can see me. Okay, good. Y'all got the PowerPoint too? Okay. Okay. I got the sound off. I can't hear you. Don't talk, because if I turn the sound on, listen what happens, Edward. Oh, shoot. If I turn the sound on, then the people, it'll be echoing because they'll hear here. Okay. Oh, wait a minute, y'all. I messed up. I'm sorry, Edward. Wait a minute, guys. Hold on. Oh, I messed up the phone. See what happens when the phone rings. Okay, I'm back. I'm back. All right. So the jinn, when we're going to talk about this when I go into the Ramadan talk, the jinn, they are locked up in chains, but not all of them. Only the Afreet during Ramadan. The rest of them are not. Okay, let's continue on. All right. Okay, also, a lot of us like to go to the park. A lot of us like to go to the woods. You know, the jinn live in the woods. They live in parks because they're told to stay away from us. So they live in communities that are separate from ours. And they love to sit between the shade and the sunlight. And this is why, as Muslims, if we go to the park or if we're sitting outside, you know, we don't sit with half our body in the shade and half our body out, because that's how the jinn sit. And we're supposed to do the opposite of them. Just like we don't drink or eat with our left hand, because that's a fiqh regulation that the jinn do. We don't sit outside under a tree with half our body in the shade and the other half not, because the jinn love to sit like that. So we don't imitate them that way. And also the jinn have animals. Remember, we talked about how they eat and drink just like we do. And we went over the hadith, whereas the jinn had asked the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam about food because they couldn't find food. And the Prophet made dua for them. He said, every bone which the name of Allah has been mentioned over, you will find it covered with flesh for you. And also the dung, like I told you guys, they eat dung too. The dung of the camels is also fodder, can be used as fodder for your animals. So the jinn have animals, and they have fodder for their animals too, that's made from the dung and the animals that we use. Okay. Now, there's a specific animal that our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us that the devils use, and that is the camel. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, verily, the camel has been created from the devils, and behind every camel is a devil. And this is why, as Muslims, we cannot pray in the pasture of camels. And here's the dalil. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, do not pray in the pastures of camels, because they are from the devils. Instead, pray in the fields of the sheep, or a cow, or something like that. The sheep are blessed, but not the camels. Also, another authentic hadith: do not pray in the resting place of the camel, because they have been created from the devils. And by the way, these two authentic hadiths refutes the claims of those Muslims that say that it's haram for us to eat the urine and the dung of the camel. This is not true. The urine and dung of any animal that is permissible for us to eat is not impure. Does everybody understand that? You know the hadith. Before Allah revealed penicillin. Remember, for every sickness comes a treatment. Back in the 6th century, during the Prophet's time, that penicillin was not invented. Allah didn't send that knowledge to us. But instead, how did they treat the flu? One of the treatments for the flu in the 6th century was to drink the urine of the camel. The urine of the camel was a great, because of how they graze. You know, it was like penicillin. So the Prophet would tell people when they get sick with the flu, go drink the urine of the camel, because in that urine is a treatment. Well, now we have penicillin. You don't have to drink the urine of a camel, because Allah has given us technology and knowledge of penicillin. Okay? And now I'm going to answer the question that Brother Edward and his wife asked. I'm not Edward. I'm sorry, Edward. I'm sorry, Kimmy. That Kimmy and her husband Abdullah asked. How does shaitan look? Well, shaitan is very ugly. The Prophet Muhammad tells us that. The shaitan has dreadlocks. Oh yeah, he's got dreadlocks. That's why them dreadlocks are haram. I don't care whether you call them dreadlocks, whether you call them cocky locks. Locks are haram. It's not haram to wear braids, but locks of any kind are haram. In fact, Allah compares the branches of the tree of Zakum in the hellfire to the heads of the devils. Listen to what Allah says. I want all you brothers and sisters who refuse to get rid of them nasty dreadlocks to ponder this. Allah says, is it better as a welcome or the tree of Zakum? We have appointed the tree of Zakum as a punishment for the wrongdoers. It is a tree that grows from the pit of hell, and its fruit is like the heads of the devils. You people need to stop them dreadlocks. Iblis is ugly. He has his hair in knots. We have also an authentic hadith. What's the source? Sahih Bukhari. A Bedouin converted to Islam, and he came to the mosque for the prayer. His hair was in knots all over his head, because the Arabs used to wear knots too, dreadlocks too. They would go without combing their hair too if they were trifling. Trifling people do that. Sorry, truth always hurts. The truth is a bitter pill to swallow. Why do you women grow dreadlocks? because you don't like the fact that every time you have sexual relations with your husband, you have to take a gusso. You have to get your hair wet. So you say, I'm sick of doing my hair, so I'm just going to let it knot up. Come on, let's get real. That's why you growing them nasty dreadlocks. It ain't because you are no culture. It ain't because you know you look good. You know you look like a fool with them things in. But you're lazy, like Iblis, like the Jinn. The Jinn are lazy too. This man came to the mosque. His hair was growing all over his head, locking up. The prophet said, do you have a comb? The man said, yes. The prophet said, do you have some oil? The man said, yes. The prophet said, go home and comb through your hair. He said the Jinn walk around with their hair locked up all over their head. That's exactly the wording. That's dreadlocks. That's locks. But then when the man went home, he came back, his hair was nice. The prophet said, doesn't that look better? He said, anyone who has hair should comb through it. The Arabic word used is comb through it and oil it on a regular basis. You can't comb through locks. Okay? So, Shaitan has dreadlocks, and he's ugly in appearance. Now, I thought this would be interesting. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam lived during the Middle Ages. The 6th century, that was considered the Middle Ages. Guess what, guys? Y'all want to know how the Christians used to picture Shaitan back in the Prophet's day? Listen at this. Back in the 6th century, the Christians imagined Shaitan as being a black man. Y'all check this out. Show how these Christians were crazy. They pictured Shaitan as being a black man with a pointed beard, high eyebrows, and a mouth that blew out flames of fire. And they also pictured the black man to have horns, a hoof, and a tail. Why did I bring this up? When the slaves came to America, what's one of the things they used to always ask the Africans? Can we see your tail? Y'all see that? That's Christianity. What happened to Paula? What's her name? Y'all know, the Food Channel lady that they fired. Why did they fire Paula? Because she had asked one of her servants, she had one of her housekeepers as a black person serving, and she grabbed him and said, I wanted to feel your tail. That's why they fired Paula. I talked about Shaitan, how Shaitan is unattractive. He's got dreadlocks, and that ticks people off. Oh yeah, they don't like me talking about them dreadlocks. That's why they nuked me out of here. Okay, well, dreadlocks are haram. Shaitan has them. He's ugly, and also Allah tells us that Shaitan has horns. In fact, he has 2 horns. Let me put this here. We have this hadith, whereas the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, do not try to pray. Do not pray when the sun is rising or when it is setting, because the sun rises and sets between the 2 horns of a devil. What does that mean? What does that mean? When Allah said, when the Prophet says that every day, guys, when the sun rises and every day when the sun sets, Iblis, out of his arrogance, he stands in front of the sun. He stands in front of the sun so that those people who worship the sun will worship him. Okay? We have also this hadith. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, if the sun is setting, then do not pray until it disappears. And do not wait for your prayer until the sun rises, nor while it is setting, because it sets and rises between the horns of Shaitan. Now, the thing about these two hadiths, a lot of Muslims will read these two hadiths and they'll say, Sister Laila, I woke up for Fajr. I missed Fajr. But I waited until the sun rose to make it. Was this correct? The answer is no. Remember, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whenever we miss a prayer due to oversleeping, he said, make it as soon as you wake up. These two hadiths do not apply to an obligatory prayer. They are talking about voluntary prayers. Voluntary prayers. Okay, and I want everybody to understand that. Okay, so what the Prophet is saying here is for us to not do any voluntary prayers when the sun is rising or the sun is setting. But now, if you missed a prayer because of sleep, you make it as soon as you can, as soon as you wake up. Or if you forgot a prayer, you make it as soon as you remember. So these two hadiths only apply to the voluntary prayers, not the obligatory ones. Okay, and that's what I wanted to go over today. That person nuked me just at the end of my lecture. He finally managed to do it some type of way. But that's all I want to discuss today. So the jinn live in places that we don't live. They live in abandoned houses. They live in the woods. They live in the mountains, the forest, the desert, because Allah commanded them to formulate their communities away from us, ours. They also live in graveyards, cemeteries, the pastures of camels, because they eat the camel's dung and they use it and his urine. The camel is very important for the jinn. So we don't, pray in any camel pastures. And now I hope you guys understand that hadith about a place where you defecate and urinate. Okay, an outhouse. We don't pray in outhouses. That's not a bathroom. Okay, that's an outhouse where there's nothing but feces and urine.